When should students begin to explore post-high school options?
So for families who have high school students who are looking into going to a university or a community college or whatever the case may be, I would say it's important to start looking around the age of 15, 16, just to see kind of what programs are out there, and then to get started on taking SAT, ACT, whatever the school requires. And some schools don't require that, but it's always good to get ahead of the game and do that. And I think it's important to figure out first if your student is going to be comfortable living away from home.
What are some things that families should discuss and consider about college readiness?
Something I've noticed working in the higher ed realm is that we get a lot of students who get here and they are national merit scholars and they have a scholarship and they had done super well in high school, always made A's, really may not have ever felt super challenged, and then they get to college and they hit that first challenge and they're becoming independent while also trying to figure out how college goes and living on their own and figuring out what they're going to eat for dinner and how they're going to wake up in the morning and all of that. So just getting to kind of asking yourself these questions, like, are they going to be okay if they're far away from home? Are they going to be able to have the independent skills to wake up and go to class on time? Because that's something that we've had parents reach out about and say, hey, can you help so-and-so? They're having trouble getting to class. And that's not something that a lot of colleges are going to just get up and do. You know, once you're here, you're 18, you're an adult, and there are some things that are just expected of you, and that's, so having those independent skills are really important. So while looking at colleges, I think asking those tough questions is super important, because if they're not ready for that, waking up on their own and living on their own and all of those things, community college, I would say would be maybe a good place to start. And I know several students who started out at a community college, took a few hours just to see how the college life goes and to see what challenges those classes bring, because they are so different from high school.
Are there specific challenges that many students encounter when they start college?
The first huge challenge that I think of when it comes to a neurodiverse student coming to college is learning how to advocate for themselves if they hadn't already learned that in middle school and high school. Them being able to self-identify and then figure out what their needs are is super important, so that they can vocalize that either to the accommodations department or their professor. That's a huge skill that a lot of mine still kind of struggle with. So that's something that we work on pretty often. And then another struggle that I've seen is just figuring out when to study, because like I've said before, college is such a different challenge than high school, and some of these students come in and they're brilliant and they can do well on tests, but they've never been in the college environment, so they're not sure what to do with. They're taking 5 classes and they see this huge to-do list and they think, oh my gosh, I don't know how to get all of this done. I don't know how to manage my time. That's huge. And learning how to wake up on time, get to class on time, figure out when to study, figure out when to take breaks, and how to not take that break for too long, and also how to have a social life while you're juggling all of your classes. And then sometimes some need to find a job, and so learning how to juggle that as well. That is something I think I wish more of our students were prepared for. I think their parents have done a lot for them in middle school and high school, and then they get here and it's like I'm going from my mom waking me up every day to go to school to I have to figure out how to set my alarm and how to get up and like how to get ready and how to remember how to shower and take your meds or whatever the case may be. Those independent living skills are really important, and they're definitely a challenge, and not just for neurodiverse students, but for neurotypical students as well.
Can you touch on the importance of finding a sense of community as well as student mental health?
I think another challenge is building a social life and finding the right community. You know, a lot of what autism is a social communication disorder. It's harder for some of them to make friends, make connections, feel comfortable going to places to make those connections. I know through my research in my PhD program, a lot of what I'm finding is isolation. Social isolation is huge among the neurodiverse community because they don't want to go to those big events and have to like navigate the loud noises, the crowded places, and things like that. So finding friends is just something that across the board, any of my students that I meet with, one of their goals, at least one of their goals for all of them, was to make friends and build a community. So I would say those are some of the biggest challenges that neurodiverse students face coming to college for the first time.
Are there skills that students should start working on with their families prior to college?
Yeah, some of the skills that I think that are really good for parents to start introducing to their students at the high school level is some type of time management routine, whether it's a planner or writing things down on a notebook sheet of paper or using note cards and scheduling them out, like writing Monday on one and writing what you need to do then, and writing Tuesday on the other, and so on and so forth. Just coming up with a routine that works for them and starting younger is really important, and that way they can hone those skills and they have them already when they get here, instead of being like, oh my gosh, I've never managed my time in my whole life. I don't know where to even start. Another thing is helping them establish a routine just in their personal life, knowing like this is when I'm going to wake up. If they have medication, learning when they need to take it and starting to take it on their own without their parents reminding them. Then, you know, something that a few of my students struggle with is hygiene and mental health, and they kind of go hand in hand. Whenever your mental health fails, your hygiene kind of goes out the window. So coming up with a good system of hygiene, showering, changing clothes, laundry, all of those things, and having them do their own laundry whenever they're at home, and you know, starting that process of learning how to take care of different things that become your sole responsibility whenever you're out on your own. Some other skills, something that I like to do with my middle schoolers and my high schoolers was whenever they had a problem in their class, instead of me emailing them, instead of their parents emailing the teacher, having that student advocate for themselves and email the teacher on their own and ask the question that they need to ask, or ask for the extension that they need, or ask for the help that they need, whatever the case may be. Teaching them to advocate young as possible is one of the greatest skills that you can instill in your student. And then, you know, as I mentioned, mental health is something that typically for a lot of our students declines whenever they first get here, because it's such a challenge, it's such a new thing, and you're off on your own for the first time. So coming up with some coping skills that work is really helpful. Just figuring out, like, whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, this is who I'm going to call, or this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start going on walks every day. I'm going to start journaling. I'm going to ask for help on campus if there is something like we have at TU, the counseling and psychological services. Just helping them come up with kind of a plan for if things get hard and their mental health does start to suffer, because unfortunately that is a trend that happens among several of our students, and they come to us and they have no idea how to cope with it. So instilling those coping skills in them young is really helpful as well.
Big thanks to Holden Trainer and the University of Tulsa Pathfinders program. Please subscribe to Inclusive Academia.